And CBS News reporter Elaine Cobbe joins us now from Paris. Elaine, are you actually seeing signs of fear on the streets of Paris that there would be another attack?
You know, Don, after last night's rally, people were saying they drew strength from that show of unity, and they said they felt less afraid, and several also said it helped to ease the pain. But it is true that people are staying home a little more. The January sales started last week, and they've just not been doing as well as before, and people are a little more jumpy. There are false alarms all over the place. As soon as anyone puts down a bag, an area is evacuated. So people still a bit jumpy. And the government reacting, of course, because they have put on more security, as we heard, 10,000 more soldiers on the streets at sensitive sites. That's an unprecedented level in peacetime France.
Elaine, speaking of the government, how much criticism is the government facing, though, for not preventing these attacks?
There's a little criticism, but not a lot, because it's a tough job at the moment. There are so many people on the French intelligence watch list. Just 10 years ago, it would have been a few dozen. Now they have a few thousand people, including at least 1,000 French foreign fighters who've gone to Syria or are trying to go to Syria. So they've been forced to decide just who to concentrate on. And let's not forget the older of the Sharif brothers, Saeed Sharif, was never arrested or detained or convicted. So he wouldn't have been high on the list. But that's also something they are worried about now, that if people like Koulibaly and Cherif Kouachi, who are up there but not really as high as some might be, could have prepared this and gotten under the radar, who else is getting under the radar?
Secretary of State Kerry is traveling to Paris later this week, but the administration has received some criticism for not having any high-level representatives during that rally yesterday. Is that also the sentiment in Paris and in France? Is there some resentment that the U.S. wasn't represented?
There isn't really. They're much more reporting the fact that the U.S. feel bad about it. There was some comment and surprise that Attorney General Eric Holder, who was in town, wasn't at the rally. In fact, many journalists and many French people assumed he was, since he was here. But many also said it would have been terrible if President Obama had come, for example, because then it would have become a different situation. The security presence alone would have changed the dynamic of that march. So I think it's being much more controversial in the U.S. than here in Paris.
And Hollande did say that that President Obama was very present after the attacks, presumably talking to him on the phone at many times. But Hollande also made the statement right after this happened that France is declaring war on radical Islam. Was that statement symbolic, or do you think that there really is a move afoot to try to prevent these kinds of things, perhaps even going into foreign countries just to try to stop them overseas?
I think that was a direct response to the threats by the attackers. We saw Koulibaly in that video that was released saying that the attacks were in direct response for France's intervention in Mali and in northern Iraq and Syria. And I think François Hollande wanted to make it clear to the jihadis that France will not be intimidated and that France will continue to fight against foreign fighters and the financing networks for them. And that's part of what they're talking about on the international scene with partners like the US, like European neighbors, on just how much can be done to reduce the ability and the ease with which these groups travel, get money, and get the necessary logistical backup.
All right, Elaine Cobbe reporting to us from Paris. Thank you.